Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to our call today. We are going to be looking at First LEGO League Challenge today. I'm glad that you could all make it. My name is Dave Ellis, and I am the VP of Programs for First Robotics Canada. And I will be shortly introducing Annika Pint, who will be presenting today. But just for some housekeeping items for you, if you have a question, there's a chat feature in Zoom. And so if you go down to your little ribbon toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should be able to select the chat feature, and then you can just queue up your questions in there. And as they get queued up, we will have our Q&A session at the end where Annika will answer those questions for us, and then we'll run that way. We all are also recording this call, so if you have to step away for any reason, or if you have a colleague who you think would enjoy seeing this afterwards, we'll be emailing it out to everybody and posting it on our site as well. So you can catch it there and you can pass it on to whoever you think would benefit from it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Annika Pint. She is a First Canada staff member, and she runs the First LEGO League Challenge program for Ontario. And she's a longtime First LEGO League coach. She has run the First LEGO League Challenge, Discover, Explore, and FRC programs for for Toronto District School Board for many, many years, and has a lot of experience in all areas. So Annika, I'm going to pass it off to you to take us through today's session on First LEGO League Challenge.
Thanks, Dave. Great to be here with you and all of today's attendees to talk a little bit more about First LEGO League Challenge and this year's 2020-2021 replay season. Next slide, please. To start us off today, I'd love to find out a little bit more about our attendees on today's call. So we'll start off with some audience participation. And to do so, I'll invite anyone who has a handy dandy device to visit the website, www.menti.com, and use the code 6795066 to share what enticed you to register for today's session. After having taken a look at some of the attendees, I noticed that some may come with some previous experience with First LEGO League Challenge. Some of you may be embarking on your first season in First LEGO League Challenge. What was it that stood out to you when you saw this session advertised, and what might you like to learn more about, just to make sure that we cover all our bases during today's session? So just give folks a minute to, again, visit www.menti.com. Check out that code, and let's see how you came to be here with us today and what kind of information you'd like to make sure that we share with you during today's session. I've just done a quick sample there to test it out. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so this is a program that can be run both as an extracurricular activity and in the classroom. So we'll definitely talk about some of those options. And there's quite a lot new this year. If we don't get a chance to chat about some of those, then there'll be some additional coach training in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. Dave, if you're able to go on to the next slide in the Mentimeter, there should be another question there. This one's easier, so hopefully people can answer this one quickly. I wondered if people have been coaching for 1 year, 2 or more years, or never coached before. And this will just give us an idea of how to, some experienced coach on the call. Yeah, just give us an idea of how to frame our discussion today. We'll just give it one more minute. Oh, I know there's more than 2 folks on the call. Maybe it's hard to get into this, Menti. All right, Dave, looks as though we've got, we're ready to move on to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit more about the First LEGO League program overall, and then specifically the First LEGO League Challenge division for students in grades 4 to 8. So this year, First LEGO League is divided into 3 different divisions: First LEGO League Discover, First LEGO League Explore, and First LEGO League Challenge. And if you're interested in learning more about the first 2 divisions, we had some really great webinars run on Monday and Tuesday, led by the lovely and talented Christine Bibick, and those have been recorded. So you're welcome to check out those sessions as well for more information. But for today's session, we'll be taking a look specifically at the First LEGO League Challenge program, which is for students ages 9 to 14. And the way it works is we have between 2 and 10 students work collaboratively to build and program autonomous LEGO MINDSTORMS robots. And those robots then complete tasks on a themed playing field. They also work to develop innovative solutions to real-world problems. And then they participate in a regional tournament, which will look a little bit differently this year than in previous years. We'll talk more about that. But at these events or competitions, the teams present their solutions and they showcase their robots' capabilities for panels of judges. So let's take a look more at this specific division of First LEGO League. I mentioned in the previous slide that the teams design and build a robot to complete tasks on a themed playing field that relates to this year's challenge theme. And so to let you know a little bit more about the challenge theme, it's called Replay. And the focus of this year's challenge is to promote physical activity by making it safe, fun, and accessible for people of all ages and abilities. So the teams will be taking a look at existing problems and developing innovative solutions to try and get people started and staying physically active. And also all of the missions on this themed playing field also relate to this year's challenge in terms of promoting physical activity for people of all ages and abilities. And no matter what the theme, there are 4 main parts to the First LEGO League Challenge program. The first is the core values. So the second is robot design, the third is robot game, and the fourth is innovative project. And these 4 different components are weighted equally in the program. And the core values, the robot design, robot game, and innovation project are what the students or the teams do, and the core values is how they do them. So we'll take a look at these core values, what these core values actually are. Now these first core values are the same across all programs. So if you were taking a look at the First LEGO League Discover program or First Tech Challenge, about which we're having a presentation tomorrow, so check that one out, or even in First Robotics competition, these core values are the same through all the programs. And they include discovery, innovation, impact, teamwork, inclusion, and fun. And for any of you that are running school-based teams, you'll know that these align really closely with some of the character education that's taught and valued in many different school boards across the province. Now, what do you need for your season? Well, some of them are shown here. So the teams are going to use one of two different types of robotics kits. One is called the LEGO MINDSTORMS EV3 core set, that's shown in the top left. And the second option this year is called the LEGO Education Spike Prime set. And those are two, whichever robotics kit you choose, that's an initial investment that you don't need to make again on a year-to-year basis, because those kits can be reused. The season-specific materials are recurring, they change from year to year. And so the first thing you'll need is what's called a challenge set. And in addition, with your registration, you also get something called engineering notebooks and a team meeting guide. So the students use the robotics kit, and they follow the lessons in the team meeting guide to build and program their robot so that it can complete missions on that themed playing field that you see in the top right there. And then they can record their learning as they go in the engineering notebooks that also come with your season registration. And we'll take a closer look at what that challenge mat actually looks like in a little bit later in the presentation. The team meeting guide and engineering notebooks that I mentioned are really, really valuable resources, especially if you're a beginning coach. On the left, you'll see a sample page from the team meeting guide. That's like the teacher guide or the coach guide. And each of them are broken down into 12 different sessions or lessons. And as you can see on the left, they're annotated. So really giving some good detail for the coaches so that they know how to guide the learning of their team members through each of these sessions. And then in the engineering notebook, there's a corresponding page for each of the sessions in which the students can record their learning, whether it's a sketch or answering some questions. And it's a really good way to get students ready for that either year-end celebration that they'll have if they're doing this as part of their classroom work, or attending one of those year-end competitions that I mentioned. And speaking of the tournaments or the year-end events, there's a lot that goes on at a tournament, but there's two main components that I wanted to mention today, and also talk a little bit about how those will be different this year than if you've participated in previous years. In previous years, the teams would go to 3 different judging sessions, one for each of the different components of the First LEGO League program, one of which was the robot design judging session, one was the innovation project judging session, and a core values judging session. So they would go to 3 different places and speak to different panels of judges about those different aspects of their experience and their season. This year, the students or the teams will just go to 1 judging session in which they'll meet with 1 panel of judges, and they'll speak about their innovation project and also about their robot design. And then the judges will ask them questions to obtain additional information, and then they'll use one of the 3 rubrics that are shown there. They'll use all 3 of them to score the team in those 3 different categories. The other main aspect of a competition is the robot game. So again, in previous years, teams would meet together at a central location, and they would show how their robot is able to complete the different challenges on that themed playing field. But because we're not able to meet in person this year to do that, we're still going to be able to showcase what their robots can accomplish, but we'll be doing that remotely. So teams will be sending in footage of their video of their robots performing these tasks instead of seeing it live. And they'll still be scored in the same way as they would if they were at an in-person event. And just to let you know a little bit more about what the robots are required to do for this year's robot game, there's a short video here that gives you an idea of some of the easy and maybe not so easy things that the robot will be required to accomplish.
This is the replay competition field. There are 14 missions, which can be attempted in any order. You do not have to complete all the missions. Just try as many as you can in each 2.5-minute round. Only the score from your best round will be counted. Your robot must start from this launch area, and you should program it to return to this home area when it returns from the field. You can handle and modify your robot while it is in the home area. If your robot and all its equipment is small enough to fit in this small inspection area, you will score 25 points. Mission 1, Innovation Project. During this mission, you will use the white brick model that you have made that represents the solution to your innovation project. The robot moves your white brick model into the replay logo, or to the gray area around the bench. Mission 2, Step Counter. The robot slides the step counter slow and steady. The further it moves, the more points that are scored. Mission 3, Slide. The robot slides the people off the slide and moves them to other areas, completely in home or on the heavy tire. Mission 4, Bench. The robot flattens the bench, removes the backrest, and gets cubes into the hopscotch spaces. Mission 5, Basketball. The robot gets a cube into the crate and raises the crate up the basketball post to the middle height, or to the top height. Mission 6, Pull-up bar. The robot passes completely under the bar in either direction, then later comes back and lifts itself off the mat at the end of the match. Mission 7, Robot Dance. If the robot is dancing on the dance floor at the end of the match, Mission 8, Boccia. If both share models have sent only one cube anywhere into the opposing field, then those cubes color match each other. If there are any color cubes in your frame or target. And if there is at least one yellow cube completely in your target. Mission 9, Tire Flip. The robot flips tires white side up, the heavy black tread tire and the light blue tread tire. If the heavy tire crosses the red flip line at any time, it scores 0. The robot moves the tires into the large target circle. Mission 10, cell phone. The robot flips the cell phone right side up. Mission 11, treadmill. The robot spins the rollers to move the pointer clockwise. The further it moves, the more points scored. Gray, red, orange, yellow, light green, or dark green. Mission 12, row machine. The robot moves the free wheel out of the large circle and into its smaller target circle. Mission 13, weight machine. For the match, set the weight machine to the color you want, blue, magenta, or yellow. During the match, the robot forces the large lever down until the little yellow stopper falls to score points. Blue, magenta, or yellow. Mission 14, health units. The robot collects health units from around the field, then moves them to target areas, touching the replay logo, touching the gray area around the bench, or looped over the pull-up bar post. Mission 15, precision. If you interrupt your robot, you will lose a precision token. Precision tokens left on the field can result in extra points. Remember to read the robot game rules and check for any updates during the season. Good luck!
All right, we're back. Thanks for tuning in for that video about the robot game. And you know, it's a pretty exciting part of the season when this is first released, because the teams get to find out what their robot needs to accomplish, and it can also be really overwhelming. So as they mentioned in that video, the teams only have 2.5 minutes to try and accomplish as many missions as possible. And we saw, you know, someone's hand moving some of the mission models, and it's a lot easier to do with your hand than it is with a robot. But all of these missions are also described, as they mentioned at the end of that video, in the rule book. So you can really look more, your teams can look really closely and see what kind of strategy they want to follow in terms of which ones to accomplish. And they also have to design and program their robot in such a way to accomplish the missions in a efficient and quick way. So let's take a look at some of the ways they can actually program their robot. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are two main types of robots that the teams can use. One is the LEGO MINDSTORMS EV3, and one is the LEGO Education Spike Prime. And there are different user interfaces or different software that's used to program those two different types of robots. There are also different types of software that you can use to program these robots that aren't shown here, but these were the two that were designed specifically for use with the hardware. And you can see that the one on the right for LEGO Education Spike Prime, it may look familiar to any of you that have used Scratch before, because you have the different categories on the side and different blocks that you can draw and stack in a vertical column. Whereas on the left with the LEGO MINDSTORMS EV3, there are also different palettes from which you can choose instruction blocks. And those are joined horizontally, as you see in the programming canvas there. So you'll get a chance to choose to decide which one you think is the best fit for your team. And there are also other, as I mentioned, other ways in which to program these two different types of hardware. For example, LEGO Education Spike Prime can also be programmed in Python. and there are different options for the EV3 as well. Okay, so in case that doesn't already sound exciting enough, just wanted to share with you before we talk about next steps, what some of the impact of participation in this program can actually be on the students that take part. So you'll notice from some of these statistics that the students really help. This really helps to foster 21st century life skills like time management, conflict resolution, and teamwork. It also increases their students' belief in themselves that they can succeed if they try, their problem-solving skills, and they get a chance to be involved in key STEM activities and potentially pursue further studies and maybe even careers in STEM fields. So really, really great opportunity for students to grow in many ways through participation. So if you're ready to take the plunge and register a team or to bring this to your classroom next year, these are some of the next steps that we'll talk about a bit more about now. Again, if you're running a school-based team, you can either do that outside of class time, or you may be interested in doing this as part of your curriculum or in the class. And we've got some great resources that I'll mention later, regardless of which one you're doing. If you're not a school-based team, and if you're going to be running this out of your home or somewhere else in the community, you either, no matter which way you're doing it, you'll also need to complete a screening process, order your equipment, and there's some great grants available as well to help offset some of the initial costs of getting a team or a class pack started. And uniquely this year, there have been some interruptions or changes to the season as a result of COVID-19. So there's some great guidance for how you can continue to bring this really potentially life-changing program to students despite some of the restrictions around gathering size and some of the concerns around health and safety. So once all of those things happen in the coming month, you'll have to think about a way to meet with your team, whether that's in person or through some sort of online conferencing software like we're using today. Either way, there'll need to be between 2 and 10 students on the team. And according to that team meeting guide, meeting at least 12 times with your team for approximately 90 minutes per session will really help prepare them for either a year-end celebration or to attend one of our remote events that are happening in January and February. And there'll be much more information coming about those, but we're really confident that we can recreate the excitement of an in-person event and really honor and celebrate the learning and the accomplishments of the teams, even though we'll be meeting remotely instead of in person. So lots to celebrate both at that event and afterwards with your team. As I mentioned, if you're about to embark on coaching a team or having this in your classroom again, there are a lot of additional considerations to think about, many of which are outlined in this resource and on the webpage at the First Robotics Canada website. So thinking about how you're going to separate and sanitize materials, how many students are going to be meeting in person at one time, or how you're going to connect with them remotely, but still create a really collaborative team culture. And how are they actually going to make a robot? Is it going to be at one person's house and other folks contribute their ideas towards getting that assembled? So lots to think about. And again, at this website, there are some really great suggestions on how you can still bring this, again, amazing experience to students. Here we have outlined some of the costs associated with registration. And as I mentioned earlier, you may be thinking about coaching an individual team, either at a school or outside of a school as a community team, or you may be considering bringing this to your classroom. So we've got both scenarios compared here. The team, it says on here 2 to 6 students, but it's actually 2 to 10. And for a class pack, it can accommodate up to 30 students. And the overall costs are listed at the top. So approximately $14.50 to get a team started. And that's just in the first year, because as I mentioned earlier, some of the initial investment that you make in the equipment is not a recurring cost. You can reuse them from year to year. And similarly for the cost of a class pack, the majority of that cost is associated with actually purchasing the robotics equipment. So if your school or if your community organization already has some robots, the cost to get started is much lower. So if we look at the registration fees, it's approximately 300 Canadian, because these are converted from US dollars, and as we know, the exchange rate can fluctuate. So these are approximate values, but around 300 for a team or 800 for a class pack, but you get all of this stuff with it. So for a class pack, you get 2 challenge sets, a team meeting guide, enough engineering notebooks for everyone in the class, along with these great resources that I mentioned that show how the lessons in those team meeting guides correspond with the Ontario curriculum for language, math, and science. There are shipping and handling fees to get these items out to you, as well as I mentioned the cost of purchasing the robotics equipment. Tournament registration has been up to 150 in the past. Those are for in-person events, so that will be much lower for this year. And if you have a class pack, the teams don't actually come to a competition unless you buy an individual team registration. But in that case, you would have an in-school celebration, and so there's no cost for teams to participate in that. You will need one of those, a wooden First LEGO League table on which to rest the mat and all of the mission models. So the cost here is showing the approximate price for the wood and the materials you need to assemble that, but there's some really clear building instructions that make it really easy to put together. And then any miscellaneous costs, like if you're getting team shirts, or if you need some consumable office supplies for making posters, or designing your innovative, a prototype for your innovative solution. Great. And as I mentioned before, wanted to talk a little bit more about the class pack, just because it's such in my opinion, good value for the money, and really allows more than just a small group of 2 to 10 students to benefit from participation in the First LEGO League Challenge program. For any of you that have been witness to the learning that happens when students participate in First LEGO League Challenge, it's really project-based learning, and it's about a real-world issue that's of interest to and chosen by them. So it's very engaging for them. And we've taken the team meeting guide and looked at each lesson to see which language, math, and science curriculum expectations from the Ontario curriculum align with those lessons. So if we click on, let's say, language, for example, we can maybe take a look at the many expectations for grade 4, let's say. And if you scroll down, you can see that there are so many, this is for the teachers that are worried about this feeling like an add-on. Really, you can meet so many of the goals of these 3 curricula through participation in First LEGO League, and similarly for the math and science curricula. And as you may know, this year there's a new math curriculum, which is perfect timing, but there's a whole component of coding in the math curriculum. And so what better way to meet those expectations than to code robots to do cool stuff. Thanks, Dave. And so again, ClassPack is a great option for teachers that want to do this in their classroom. But again, you have the option to register individual teams, either school-based or community-based. And I just want to take a pause there and have a look in the chat. I see that there's some great questions coming in, and thanks to Christine for making an effort to answer as many of those. Again, we will be having those regional competitions in late January and early February, but hoping for a provincial tournament even later in the year than that. With respect to the deadline for registration and ordering the challenge sets, you've got, I'll just say for now, longer than in the past. So we're hoping to move that registration deadline until at least the end of October. So hoping that that gives people more of a time to, settle into new routines associated with the beginning of the school year, and also to, to think about all of the accommodations that they're going to need to make to ensure that their team is safe but can still collaborate in a good way. For our provincials, again, we're looking at April, but this no guarantees on that one. We'll just have to wait to see how things develop. With respect to purchasing the challenge sets later on without registering a team, you do need to register a team in order to be able to purchase challenge sets. And one of the cool things is that you can actually buy 2 challenge sets this year with each team registration. So that might be a way to access an additional challenge set if you don't have your own team. And with respect to grants, yes, you can definitely apply for those even if you are running a community team, and we invite you to apply for those grants. They are on a first come, first served basis, but we do really want to support teams that are willing to take the plunge and make it happen this year. Great. I hope that's all of them for now, but for anyone that's looking for additional resources, we've got a long list here, as well as some resources listed on the First Canada website. We'll be sharing this slideshow with you so that you can click on the specific hyperlinks for the resources that are of interest to you. And on this first page here, we've got, as I mentioned, some building instructions. For anyone that hasn't really had a chance to program robots before, but you really would like to know before maybe unleashing them on your team members, there are some really great tutorials here from Microsoft and from LEGO that don't take too long to go through, but can really give you a solid foundation so that you can at least answer some of your students' questions. I know when I first started coaching, I didn't know a lot of the answers, but we learned together, and that's part of the program. Right. And again, these are some additional programming resources and also some documentation to help guide you through the registration process if and when you're ready to do that. There's another link there, sorry, on number 11. For those that are interested in having a team but not really sure how they can meet in person and maybe how they can build a physical robot in a safe and effective way, there's a free software called Virtual Robotics Toolkit that allows you to build and program virtual robots. And so that's a way for students to actually make their robot virtually and also to practice their programming skills. Of course, they would need a physical robot to be able to participate in the competition or at the regional qualifiers. And January and February, but this is a way for really to engage the entire team if you don't have face-to-face access or access to a physical robot. And again, those grant applications are available at the link in number 12. And again, we'll share this with you so you can go directly there. Thanks, Dave. All right. Well, I've hopefully been able to answer some of the questions as we went. And to answer your question, Jay, this year's challenge is coming to that virtual robotics toolkit. So it's still under development by the company that made the software, Cognation Robotics, but they are working on creating the mission models for their replay robot game. So it'll be cool to test out the robot. Of course, I mean, they try, the physics of the software is quite accurate, and the way in which it's been programmed to work is really similar, but of course there would be some differences, but it's still great for strategizing and again for practicing using different types of attachments and for learning how to program the robot. Disclaimer is that it's only for EV3 right now, so they don't have Spike Prime as an option. So if that's something that you want to embark on, then you'll have to stick with EV3s.
Yeah, because there's a really good question in here that you may not have seen yet. It just said, can I start a team as a parent for my kids?
Oh yeah, Krishna, great question. Absolutely. So you can start a team for your kids. You only need 2 students or two children or 2 youth to be on the team. And if it was something with which you were comfortable, the team could be larger. For example, if your kids had some friends in the neighborhood or even some relatives that wanted to be part of it as well. So you would be considered a community-based team. And I think, as Christine mentioned in one of the previous responses, you just need to have a team bank account so that when you applied for the grant, the check could be made payable to that account instead of to an individual. And again, we have lots of support and resources available. You don't need to be an expert at coding, although you may have some expertise. And it's a really fun way to do something together as a family.
A follow-up to that would be, okay, but who will teach them?
Yeah. Well, and again, Dave, please feel free to add in if you can think of anything else. But when you say who will teach them, there's a team meeting guide that comes with registration. So I mean, you would, and they would learn themselves by going through the different sessions outlined in the team meeting guide. So with each lesson, with each session, there's a lesson about a new programming or coding skill, and it also guides them through the process of looking at real world problems and coming up with innovative solutions to those. So it's really scaffolded really well for them. If you're wondering if you can sign your kids up for a team that already exists, then they would either need to have a team at their school. They would need to have a team at their school, because there isn't a system by which students are grouped together to form teams or placed on teams that have openings. It's really a matter of either a teacher at their school or a group of interested parents or community members coming together to take responsibility for the different aspects of coaching the team. And then you learn together along the way using the team meeting guide to help you.
This question here from Tess, will the robot game judging be synchronous or asynchronous?
Yeah. So the robot game judging, I think I know the definitions of these words. I think it would be asynchronous. So they will not be judged. They will not be the robot game judging. I think the refereeing, the scoring will not be done live at the same time as the robot match is occurring. So teams will be submitting pre-recorded versions of their pre-recorded videos of their robot performing as many missions as possible in 2.5 minutes, and they'll be required to submit those videos within a given time frame, and they'll still be submitting 3, the best of which will count towards their final score. I hope that answers your question.
Sorry, is it okay if I jump on with my microphone here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you guys, all of you, for putting this on. Again, we've been talking with my teams and to see if we wanted to put together another team or not, and the kids were really worried about this aspect, because they feel like you can run your robot game 100 times and videotape it and submit the best 3, versus, you know, the exhilaration of trying to get it to work exactly right that one time or that 3 times. So is that something you guys thought about, or is that, if it's fine if we run it 100 times and pick the best 3 runs to submit?
Yeah,
it's flavor than it has in the past, right?
It brings a bit of a different feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, so that was just, and I'm just curious. I just wanted to know what to tell my kids when we talk about it again, because that's, you know, one thing that they're considering.
Yeah, and is that if it is possible to film it so many times and choose the best 3, would that be something that dissuaded them from wanting to participate?
I think so. Yes. So and that's why, I mean, we said we'd make a decision after this meeting, and and we're just been discussing with my teams, and we don't know whether we're going to submit a team or not. I mean, we have differing opinions, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, the feedback from them, it would be neat if you had your camera set up and you had your judges watching, and then go and you run, right? Like 3 times, just trying to mimic the competition.
Yep.
And if your 2 runs fail, well, it's too bad, so sad, right? But if you get it, because that's, you know, because it's very easy to get a great robot score when you're in your basement by yourself without the judging, right? And then when you actually go to the tournament, your scores are never as high, right? Because something always goes wrong, and it's that challenge of coding it correctly to get it to be repeatable, as opposed to, oh, we got it to work that one time, great, we got it on video. Anyways, and I certainly appreciate how you guys are pivoting and innovating, because this is such a challenge for everybody right now. Anyways, just some thoughts.
Yeah, and it's a completely fair point, because that excitement of not knowing whether your robot is going to perform in the same way you hoped it would, and really having to make it reliable so that it does, is one of the really fun and exciting aspects of being at a competition. And I think
it's always worried about fairness, right? So the kids were like, well, what if somebody, you know, took some videos and then spliced it with another video that of other people? The kids are all about fairness as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of different ways, like a couple of different things about that. I mean, I think we would have to trust the gracious professionalism of teams to definitely not be doing any kind of video editing, and and it's almost like, since everyone's in the same boat, your team could also choose the best of their runs, and so it's kind of giving everybody that advantage, and you're like, yay, I got it to work just right. And so I see some elevated scores even because of that option. I just wanted to check in with Dave for a minute, because I know with the First LEGO League Challenge program, we're trying to mirror closely with the way FTC is going to be collecting scores. And so, Dave, I wonder if you're able to share how that's going to be happening for FTC, just to see if there's any ways of keeping track of what when the video was taken. There's maybe a short window during which that needs to happen, so that eliminates the possibility of making 100 different versions of it.
Yeah, so my understanding with FLL Challenge is that the videos have to be unedited, and they have to all 3 have to be date stamped with the same day. So it needs to be done in one day.
I can use that to convince the kids, I think. right?
Yeah,
I think as long as they have some parameters, because they'll watch YouTube videos of some team over in Singapore scoring 200 points, and they're like, wow, it's amazing, but I think they probably did 600 runs before they got that to work. Right?
Yeah. Now you could still do 100 runs in a day or whatever,
Yep.
whatever you're able to do, right? But that's the same with everybody. But yeah, there's no editing of the video, because I've seen that on YouTube as well, where people cut and splice. They do mission 1 and then they splice it to mission 2, which is
Yeah.
possibly to show that they can do them all, and maybe they can't do them all in succession. Who knows? But part of that is also probably just cut out some of the boring transportation parts. But my understanding, Annika, you can correct me, or Christine, my understanding for FLL Challenge is it all has to be done in one day, and it has to be unedited.
Okay.
Versions.
That sounds fair, I think. Can I ask another question about the judging, like the panel judge? So it's one panel of judges, I suppose, I'm assuming over Zoom or something, and then you just gather the kids together, and it's like I don't know, like a half-hour session or something, right? It's just one panel.
Yep. So it's one panel of judges, and they hear about both the innovation project and the robot design in one session. And there's actually what's called the first remote event hub. And so there will be a platform through which all the events and all of those kind of sessions occur, just to help maintain privacy issues in YPP.
And will it be callbacks at all for the judging?
No.
No callbacks. Okay.
Yep. And because I suspect we'll be recording the sessions, and so the judges will be able to refer back to that during deliberations. They won't need to see all of the other teams again.
And how long would that judging session be? It's like a half
30
hour? 30
yeah,
minutes.
30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. So if go ahead, Dave.
I was just saying, and to answer your question about how First Tech Challenge ties in, it's actually different with First Tech Challenge. They are not using video replay of the robot games. So teams are going to input their scores into the scoring software. So there's been some questions about, teams, cheating or gaming the system. And again, I think it comes down to, us trusting that the coaches are going to be gracious and honest and follow the core values that we're trying to teach our kids as well.
Is there a possibility that Provincials could be live if COVID is over, hopefully? Or are you guys just planning a virtual Provincials at this point?
The hope is to have a live Provincials. Again, that depends on a lot of factors that are out of our control. But yeah, that is our hope. And whether that's in April or later, it won't be before April.
Yeah.
April would be the earliest, but it may be moved by necessity out of the venue that we'd be using for that space.
Okay. Thanks so much. I just want to get to a couple of the other questions in our remaining 5 minutes. So please send Dave or I a note if you have some more, or give one of us a call. But I saw a question here from Claude about the software alternatives to EV3. There are some web-based alternatives, one of which is Make Code. So you can save those programs online, and hopefully that's an option. You can also use Swift to program the EV3, and there are different, there are some additional ones, but hopefully with the use of Make Code and or Swift, those give you a couple of options to try. And then again, you can send me a note, Dave. I don't know if you mind showing the next slide. There's my contact information in case any of the answers here, you need some additional follow-up. Wanted to respond to Krishna's question about helping to find an existing team in the Durham area. Again, if it's an existing team for which your sons and or daughters can join, as I mentioned, most teams are formed by parents and neighbors for their own for their own children, and so aren't always looking to accept other community members. And so really the best alternative would be to find some other adults that can help you coach the team, and then you can have some fun with the kids that are on it. To answer the question about members being, oh, you've answered that one, Christine, thanks, about members having to be together physically for judging. Nope, they can all call in from their separate locations. And Dave, you made mention of that in the chat as well. So we've just got 2 or 3 minutes left. I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in and for your great questions, hoping that you got some information that will help you decide that having a team this year is definitely possible. It's great for kids, and there's lots of support available to help make it happen, despite, as I mentioned, all of the concerns about health and safety and some of the restrictions on gathering size. But really the point of participation is to have fun and learn something. And I think some of the things that the teams will have fun doing and learning are maybe unique to this year, and things they might not normally have had a chance to experience in a normal year. So we really hope to see all of you this season, and look forward to hearing from you if you have any other questions or concerns for us. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.